Today, I am super psyched and really honored to introduce our next guest and my friend, Mardi Winder Adams. I just love talking to this woman because she's fascinating. So listen to this. Mardi offers over 30 years helping women navigate the challenges of high conflict and high asset divorces. Mardi is an ICF and board certified executive and leadership coach, certified divorce transition coach, and a credentialed distinguished mediator in Texas. Wow, right? How does one person do all this? She founded the communication system and hosts the podcast, The D Shift, Redefining Divorce and Beyond, and Real Divorce Talks. A warm welcome, Mardi, a warm welcome. And reading all of what you have done, I just wish somebody like you was around 40 years ago when I went through my divorce. I could have used you in a big way.
Dr. Peggy, I could have used me when I went through my divorce as well.
Yeah. So I'm curious, is that what got you to inspired because of your own experience in divorce?
I think partially, definitely yes. The experience I had, and I didn't have a particularly difficult divorce. There was no kids involved, so it was a little cleaner than a lot of other divorces. There was some stuff that happened that wasn't extremely pleasant, as there is in every divorce. But I think that going through that, I was very fortunate because I had a great support network. And like I said, we didn't have a lot of the complications of having to deal with co-parenting and all that other kind of stuff. It was a fairly brief marriage of less than 5 years, so there wasn't a lot of commingled assets. It was fairly straightforward to do. But fast forward in my executive coaching role and in working with couples going through mediation, which I've done since the 1990s, it really struck me how difficult the whole negotiation, separation, making those financial decisions, but also those really emotional decisions. Divorce isn't just a contract, although that's what it boils down to in the court system. But for the human beings involved, it's a really emotional, stressful, life-changing situation. And I just wanted to support, particularly women. I only work with women in my coaching services, is really helping them to have the emotional support, but also the practical and logistical support of not how do you deal with the legal stuff, not how do you deal with the mental health stuff, but how do you deal with the day-to-day stuff that goes on that you have to deal with throughout your divorce.
Wow. I see how you got there. And, I think, as you said, when you have experienced it, even though yours was not as complex, just learning over the years, 30 years, wow. You've probably seen it all with kids.
Well, I've mediated some weird divorce things, I'll tell you. And I've seen some situations where couples really had the potential to go through the divorce, get a mediated settlement, and start rebuilding that relationship. And because of the adversarial nature of the legal system, that wasn't allowed to happen. And then, I think it's crazy. I don't care how much money you have to be looking at spending, and I'm not making these numbers up. These are actual clients spending like $140,000, $250,000, $300,000 in legal fees through your divorce, and it lasting years, not months, years. That's years out of your life that you could be enjoying yourself and moving on. That's money that you could be leaving to your kids or your favorite charity or your family, or just giving it away or taking travel adventures or whatever you want to do. It's so unnecessary in most cases. And having somebody that can, kind of guide you, support you, give you a chance to think about your options and, make a decision. Is it worthwhile to just give them that extra $100,000 and get this over with today? Or do you want to spend another $250,000 in legal fees in 2 years of your life to get back that money? There's no return on your investment here.
It's interesting because it seems like a no-brainer, but my thought process is when you suffer from a divorce, especially if it's a difficult divorce or there's been some unfaithfulness or something like that, and there's little kids. I don't think people know what their options are. It's sort of, discuss options. They don't even know there are options. And that's what's really interesting about your work, is to be able to introduce them to different things that they can do to get through this nightmare, so to speak.
Well, and you brought up a really good point, Dr. Peggy, in that a lot of people see the divorce process as a way to be vindicated or to be made right, or to be told that, yes, you married a very bad person and, you were a saint and they were a horrible person. The divorce process does not do any of that. As a matter of fact, in most states now, it doesn't even matter if the spouse had an affair. It doesn't matter if the spouse has, some kind of mental health diagnosis. We hear narcissistic partners brought up all the time. And I always tell people, you can be a jerk without being a narcissist. There's no, and everybody can be a difficult person at times. But if you think going through the divorce process, somebody's going to tell you, you're a good person because you put up with this and you deserve financial rewards because you put up with your partner's bad behavior, that's not a reality of the divorce process. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm saying that's the reality. And even things today, like long-term spousal support, that does not happen typically anymore. 20 years ago.
I haven't heard of it.
20 years ago or 30 years ago, it wasn't uncommon for there to be, spousal support awarded until the partner and it was typically always the woman at that point in time, till she either remarried or passed away. That doesn't typically exist anymore. It's based on the length of your marriage and how much your potential to earn income is. Whether you've been in or out of the workforce, they still expect you to get back there.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. I want to ask you, being in the, total wellness, area of healthcare, how do you, with a lot of women, thinking about all the women going through all the ones you've had to work with, how does the, I know they have financial problems too, but the emotional cost and their health, emotional and physical health, how do you find that divorce really hits that?
I don't know that you can measure it, but I know you've probably heard of the Holmes-Rahe Stress Inventory Scale, and they list divorce as the second most stressful occurrence in life, followed only by the only one that's bigger than that is the death of a spouse. So, and that's a predictor that's used to determine potential health issues based on your current stress levels. And so, one of the things that I find is women in particular don't spend enough time focusing on their own. I know self-care is a buzzword, so I'm just going to say sleep, nutrition, and exercise. They don't spend enough time focusing on that. It's really easy when you're sad, and you have every right to be sad or angry or hurt. You have the right to feel your feels. I think that's important. That's another part of this whole getting rid of stress is allowing it to work its way out of your body. But, it's easy to fall into bad habits, especially if you're living on your own. It's easy to just, if you're working and you're busy and you've got kids, it's easy to stop and grab prepared meals and fast food. It's easy to fall into the habit of maybe having a glass of wine at night to relax. And there's nothing wrong with any of these things. But if it becomes too much, if it's not in balance with the rest of your life and your health starts to suffer, your physical health, because of your emotional health, you can't be productive at work. You can't be a good mom to your kids. You can't make informed decisions if your brain doesn't have the nutrients to function, right? And it doesn't have the sleep, and it doesn't have the good experiences in life to keep those brain chemicals balanced. So, Yeah, this is a huge component of what I work with my clients on.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. These women are so blessed to have you really acknowledge their wholeness. I mean, that's such a huge thing, and obviously very near and dear to my heart, having been a holistic wellness coach. Um, what would you say some of the advice you've given women suffering in that way? What are some of the things other than, oh, sleep, eat, all that? Like, is there something else that, like, certain tips that you have for women to get through this thing without having a total breakdown?
Well, and I think that what you just said is so critical because so many times you hear people say to somebody going through a divorce, whether they're men or women, oh, well, you need to get out and you need to, enjoy yourself, or you need to,
Mm-hmm.
you need to bring more positivity into your life, or you need to eat better. But those are all nice thoughts, but they're not practical. They're not something that somebody who's so stressed about how am I going to pay for this and where am I going to live and how am I going to take care of my kids and I'm not doing as well at my job because I'm having to juggle a million balls in the air. I think that the best advice I give my clients or anybody going through divorce is sit down and create a plan and put it in writing. And I think committing to yourself by putting things in writing and scheduling time. And self-care is not bubble baths and all that kind of stuff. That's nice. But committing to, I'm going to get up 20 minutes early and I'm going to do, a 10-minute yoga exercise on YouTube, or I'm going to walk for 10 minutes, or I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes. Like whatever it is that you're going to do, scheduling that, putting in writing, committing to it, and then find somebody who can be your accountability partner, whether it's a family member or a friend, or maybe somebody else going through a divorce that y'all can work together to do things. It doesn't have to be a paid professional. If it is a professional like me, great. Sometimes my clients check in at the end of the week and say, yep, got everything done. But I'm not going to get on them if they don't. But I want people to understand that caring for yourself is the single best thing you can do to help yourself get through the divorce and come out the other side and feel like I did a good job in that. And divorce can create positive changes in your life, and just having the ability to structure, focus on yourself and commit to yourself, because sometimes it's hard to love yourself during a divorce, especially if you feel like I failed in my marriage. My family thinks I failed. My church thinks I failed. My community, whoever. You have got to learn to love yourself at this point in time and recognize what you are doing, not what you're not doing.
Exactly. And I love some of the ideas of, the morning routine. I know for me, that's always been there. It's like you get up, you meditate, you do some journaling, you take a walk, boom, then you're done for the day, so to speak. But it does reset you. I remember I had a client that, she was alone. I think she was lonely, and she's, was struggling. And I said, and we started talking about some simple things she could do to show herself some self-love. And one of the things that we came to, I said, how do you, when you do you use good dishes? Do you eat off a paper plate? And this is before I was doing the mindful eating stuff, but this was something I always had in my arsenal, right? As far as that kind of thing. And she says, oh, now sometimes I'm standing. I says, I'm going to challenge it. Do you have a favorite plate? Maybe it's from your grandmother's. I do. I says, do you have a candlestick? Yeah. I said, okay, nice. I want you to set the table as if you were going to entertain the most revered woman ever. That table has to look like you're ready to share that, meal with them. And it was really interesting. The results were fabulous. I mean, she was really like, oh, such a little thing. And she started doing that more often. And I said, see? you're showing yourself you're worthy. And sometimes we don't think we're worthy.
And I love that example, and I'm going to use that one of these days. I'm going to steal it from you. But
Absolutely.
yes, anything you can do, sometimes it is, I've encouraged people maybe to reach out to people that have been positive supports in their life, that maybe they've, sometimes friendships just kind of slide away from us. I mean, I used to live in Canada. I moved to the States. So I have a new set of friends in the States, and I don't have as much in common because I don't see my friends in Canada, but they're still my dear friends. They're still some of my best friends.
Absolutely.
And just knowing that, just making the effort. And now with social media, we can reach out. Social media isn't all bad. We can reach out and start those reconnections again. And sometimes just reconnecting with those positive people reminds us of good times and good experiences and great relationships that we have, when sometimes we look at a divorce and go, oh, all my relationships have failed. Well, no, they haven't, because there's other people in your life, right? And bringing those positive relationships in can help us start to, and our friends are going to boost our spirits, and we're going to talk about things that bring us joy and those kind of things. Yeah.
And that is part of the self-care. Going to a movie is self-care. It's like you said, it's not bubble bath. That's nice too, but it's a misconception, the way people are viewing, quote, self-care.
Right.
And it does, I'm sure, frustrate you too, because there's so many things, like, stop what you're doing. Put a puzzle together.
Or even cook your own meals. Like, I made it a point that I live out in the country, so I can't get food deliveries. I'm kind of stuck, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Even if you're busy and you're working and you have kids, now this isn't always all that affordable, but there's these food kits now where you can get fresh food and it's all pre-measured. So basically you just have to focus on the cooking. But if you enjoy cooking, that ritual of making the food and smelling it and, cutting it and preparing it with love, that's a form of self-care as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Noticing, how did that carrot grow? Looking at the farmers and feeling gratitude.
Yes.
Gratitude is another big thing, I think, I came to feel after my divorce. It was like, I have to be grateful because I know there's a purpose, and I'll figure it out hopefully soon. At the time I wanted it right now. What's going on? But over time, it was very clear that it was a blessing in disguise, and, I have to say, things, if you put on that positive, nurturing hat, self-nurturing hat, it surely makes a difference in how you get through anything in life.
Yeah. And I still agree with you. I think sometimes when you're right in the divorce, people say, oh, be positive. You're kind of like, what the heck are you talking about? But 6 months from now, you're going to be in a different place, and you're going to look back and you're going to have a different perspective on what happened. And if you can focus on seeing the growth that you accomplished, by navigating the legal process, by negotiating, by learning more about yourself, maybe by getting rid of some of the stuff that was no longer serving you in life, that you were stuck doing because that was your role as the spouse. Now you can get rid of that stuff. You can create your own traditions and ideas and ways to celebrate and recognize things. It can be a really positive experience, but right when you're in it, it might not seem like that, but you're right. It will eventually.
Very true. Very true. So, what's the most, we've talked about different, suggestions for women for self-care and all that stuff. If you could pick out one thing for people to do, when they know they're breaking up, maybe it's like how to reach you. Or how to suggest reaching someone like yourself?
Well, I think the first thing is, and this is probably not what other divorce coaches are going to say, but I don't think everybody needs a divorce coach. I really don't. So if you if you're having a fairly amicable discussion about your divorce, and you have reason, your partner has always been reasonable and willing to work with you, there's probably, and you have a support network, and you feel like you're in a good place, you probably are in a good place. If, however, you're feeling isolated, you're feeling like you don't know who to turn, you don't want your divorce dirty laundry getting aired, and you're afraid of what your partner's going to say, or your partner has those narcissistic tendencies, or has lied, or is manipulative, or has gone back, or doesn't follow through on their word, having somebody like a divorce coach helps you with all of that process. You're still going to need an attorney to deal with your legal issues. You may want to work with a therapist to deal with your own stuff. You may want to work with Dr. Peggy to help on your eating and health and holistic health stuff. So all of these things can come into play, but if you are a person that's high achieving, high asset, or high conflict, you need probably a divorce team that includes a financial planner, as opposed to just trying to do it with an attorney. So searching for divorce coaches will get you a good list of people. But just remember, as with any coach, you're going to want to look and see what is their training, what is their education, are they actually a coach, what experience do they have, and what's their areas of specialization.
That is something.
And there are some great coaches that don't have a lot of formal education. So that's not the key one. That's not what I'm suggesting. But you want to make sure that you feel comfortable trusting that professional that person with your confidential information and your personal information.
I have, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that want to ask, what's the difference between a mediator and a divorce coach?
Okay, so a mediator, because I'm both. So
I know. I'm waiting. I'm chomping at the bit here.
A mediator is a neutral third party that's called in during the settlement process to attempt to work with both parties to come to an agreement. So it's like an agreement that stipulates you get the house, you get this, you get that. It's the nuts and bolts of your divorce settlement. Now, a mediator can't grant you the divorce. Only the court can do that, but they can help you create the settlement. And usually you hire a mediator for 4 hours or 8 hours, or sometimes it's broken up over a few days. But their role is a neutral. They don't represent either party, and they're not supposed to be providing legal advice or telling you how to manage your asset division of assets and liabilities, and your co-parenting plan. That's what the mediator does. The divorce coach is your support system through the divorce. I sometimes I have one client that calls me her divorce concierge because, she feels she needs something. We sit around and we go through a coaching session. I don't ever tell my clients what to do or who to hire or what to do. We just look at all the possible options. And then, I play devil's advocate. Well, what if this goes wrong? How are you going to handle this? And we talk through all the options and help them feel really confident. So, for instance, when they go into negotiation with their partner or when they go into mediation, they understand what the process is going to be. They understand what their options are, what might be a good arrangement for them, what they need to be concerned about, and sometimes even what they need more information about to make those decisions. So they're two very separate roles.
That is great to get that clarified. I'm sure everybody's going, oh, I didn't know there was a difference, right? But this has been so uplifting to me and really, really interesting. And I don't know anybody else doing what you do, which is like, oh, I got the actual real expert on my podcast. This is a big deal.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I understand you have a little gift for our listeners today. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
I have a couple, and I'd be happy to add some more. I think what I gave you was the 28-day resilience building blueprint. And what it is it's a journal that has an activity for you to do throughout the day. And then at the bottom of the page, it has a question about how did that change the way you look at things? How did that change the way you feel? And it's all stuff that you can do at home or at work, and there's no cost involved. So it might be like hold the door open for somebody, and just see how that makes you feel when you do it. How did the person respond? And how did that maybe change your next interaction with the next person you run into during the day? So it works on resilience and gratitude.
Oh my gosh, that's a great gift. I think everybody needs that.
And it's 28 days, but you don't have to do it 28 consecutive days. I mean, you can pick and choose. Maybe you can do one day a week, or if you're really gung ho, as my mom used to say, you can get in there and do it for 28 days. But
that is terrific.
It's just kind of I like the idea because it gives you a specific action and then asks you how that impacted your life. So.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm sure everybody will really appreciate that. And is there a preferred way for people to connect with you?
Sure. They can reach out to me through my website. It's Divorce Coach for Women. That's the number 4. So it's www.divorcecoach4women.com. And there's a quiz about take your divorce stress test. If you do the quiz, it'll give you some results and some tips for handling your specific kind of stress around financing, being single, being a co-parent, and changing your careers throughout the divorce. Those seem to be the 4 big ones. So it'll give you some strategies and ideas. And then you'll also get an invitation if you want to do a free divorce strategy planning session with me.
How generous. Wow. Oh, this is wonderful. And I want to thank you so much for your time here. And I know there's going to be a lot of people hanging on to this particular information. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to talk with you, Dr. Peggy.
Oh, thanks.